We are living in a new world, Facebook world, in which 750 million people share ideas, not thinking in borders. It's a global community bigger than the US.
So good evening. My talk is about transnational networks and social media and how the two of those affect international relations. And most people who speak on this topic, including myself in other venues, are usually referring to networks of activists, and they're talking about international relations with small letters, that is, political currents out there in the real world, the things that people like us only study. But the network I want to talk about tonight is actually international relations with capital letters, the community of social scientists, many of us political scientists, who collectively observe and analyze and pontificate about world politics. And we construct the world that we say we are observing in our classrooms, in our op-eds and TV spots, through our briefings, consultancies, fellowships, spots on Colbert, and our conferences. And we function as norm entrepreneurs and as brokers and as gatekeepers. What we don't do much is study the way this works, but we should. And to that end, I have some hypotheses to share about how new media, and particularly social networking technologies, may be affecting the relationship between IR and the world we study. So I'm talking, obviously, about networks, technologies like Facebook, blogs, Twitter, wikis, YouTube. We've all heard about how YouTube is revolutionizing world politics and magnifying focusing events, and how Twitter is shaping revolutions and empowering citizens against their governments and displacing media industries. And we've heard about how Facebook contributes to transnational political community or possibly to the retrenching of the state. But user-generated media and social networking platforms are not only arguably revolutionizing world politics, they're also, I think, changing how the transnational network of IR scholars and experts interfaces with the world. These new structures are reconstituting us as agents in ways we're only beginning to explore. The latest TRIP survey of IR scholars worldwide shows that 90% of respondents now use YouTube in their teaching, 28% have contributed to blogs, 51% believe that IR blogs have a beneficial impact on the discipline, and 90% believe that blogs have a positive impact on foreign policy formulation. And some new research suggests that these beliefs have some basis. In fact, this study shows that a mention on a blog increases the chance of a scholarly article getting read by anyone by some staggering magnitude. And where did I find out about this study? Big shock, on a blog. So these new platforms are not just augmenting how we access and absorb and interpret academic research in descriptive terms, they are also reconstituting how we teach, or if they're not, they certainly should be. And they're changing how we research and how we write and how we cite, and how we communicate concepts and debates to practitioners and to each other, and even what we consider the study of world politics to include. And I would go farther to argue that social media is also shifting the boundaries between IR scholarship and practice, between the academy, the policy world, and the public sphere. And here are four testable propositions, four hypotheses about how that's happening. First, new media is flattening hierarchies within the profession. As scholars at all ranks basically circumvent conventional gatekeepers and communicate more directly outside of academic channels, blogs and Twitter have changed who counts as an expert, and they engender not only a flattening of expert outputs, but also a flattening of the inputs that construct experts' ideas, as commenters from all geolocales, political views, backgrounds, and ranks can now weigh in on academic thoughts as they are being formulated, an invisible college, to use Brad DeLong's words. And new media is also providing new ways to do international relations, creating new ways to access data and to conduct research and to debate with one another and disseminate our work. And it's promoting interdisciplinarity. It's reconstituting what it means to publish and what it means to co-author, and even what it means to do professional service in the discipline. New media is changing the language of scholarship. It's making it more accessible and more concise, and frankly, a lot more fun. Condensing a scholarly argument to a tweet or a status update or a creative YouTube video ensures its wider impact, but it also forces distillation. And this simplifies and also snarkifies the nature of scholarly discourse. Humor and satire are now part of the scholar's arsenal in ways that were unseemly in the past. I'm not saying this is necessarily a good thing, but it's there. Okay. And finally, Web 2.0 and particularly social networking platforms encourage a blurring of the boundary between the personal, the professional, the civic, and the scholarly. As members of the Twitterati, we are now as inclined to mention what our kids are doing, what shows or sports we're following, or who we're voting for as what scholarship we admire. And thanks to the way we've been retrained by Facebook and Twitter, we are no longer compartmentalizing those forms of discourse. Why does this matter? Well, first, because it correlates, I think, with an expansion of what we consider appropriate subjects for IR scholarship or political science scholarship. The personal is now more mainstream political than it was 2 decades ago, but so is the cultural, which helps explain, for example, the drastic increase, not only in applications and analyses of pop culture, metaphors and artifacts and industries and actors by social scientists on the new internet, but also an increase in attention to these topics in scholarly journals and conference papers like James Fowler's brilliant PS piece, or like the paper I presented at ISA in March on the Battlestar Galactica metaphors in tweets about the Egyptian Revolution. This was a serious study that began as a frivolous blog post reacting to patterns I observed in the Arab Spring Twitterverse. The second reason this matters, though, is because this blurring of hats licenses and incentivizes scholars to acknowledge our embeddedness in the worlds that we're studying and our role in constructing and interpreting these events in the world, like the Arab Spring, through language and linking practices in ways that were previously relegated to ruminations of reflectivist writers. Social media provides a detailed, quantifiable, searchable, qualitative historical text record in the data stream of precisely how and to what extent and under what conditions we and others are exerting that effect. One there for the mining and exploration should we choose to go boldly in that direction, as some of the papers here at this conference are already doing. The results so far, IR as a discipline and political science broadly is becoming more critical, more reflective, more edgy, and more fun. And maybe this is translated into greater appeal to the masses and greater cachet with policymakers. Maybe. I don't know. As I said, research on these subjects is scarce, and these are testable propositions only. And whether any of this is good for the academy or for world politics, if true, remains to be examined. But at a moment in history when the same technologies and world events are evolving in ways we are barely keeping up with, I think it's high time that we at least paid attention to these questions. Thank you.